Welcome back. This is episode 15 of the Heated Exchange, brought to you by Blitz League. As usual, I'm Austin Geller. It is a beautiful and sunny day here in Bloomington, Indiana. Jett Rosenstein, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Always happy to be with you talking some fantasy football. Excited going home this weekend, getting ready for Thanksgiving break. A much needed break. I know for you and I both, we were excited to get home, get a little break from school. Still watching football. There's going to be some great, of course, Thanksgiving Day football games. But yeah, Austin, how have you been? Good?
I've been good. I'm going home tomorrow morning. I have an early morning flight back to sunny Florida. So I'm assuming I'll be seeing you over the weekend. Yes. I hope so. And can't wait to watch some football starting tonight. We got Patriots-Falcons. That should be an easy win for the Patriots. So, Jett, what are we getting into today?
Yes, so we have another great show planned for you guys. First, we are going to talk about the Blitz League. A lot of good stuff on my end to talk about in that league. Then we are going to get into some of our trade deadline strategies. I know for a lot of the leagues I'm in and a lot of leagues your guys are in, you're coming down to the trade deadline, having to make those final trades to sort of polish off those rosters for the playoff run. Or if you're a team that's not going to making the playoffs, we have some advice for you as well. Then Austin and I are going to take a look back a little bit, talk about some of the takes we made early on in the season, talk about our successes and our failures to date. And then to wrap it up, we will give our upsets of the week, and I will give everyone an update how Austin and I fared in last week's Pick'em contest and where we both stand overall. So it should be a lot of fun this episode.
100%. Let's get going.
All right. The Blitz League, another week in the books. We're 10 weeks into the season. Wow. And after starting 0-5 and Austin clowning on my team week after week, I am on a 5-game winning streak. I'm 5-5, inching my way back up the standings. Catching up to Austin. I mean, he's 7-3 still. I'm 5-5, but I just leaped over him in points. So that's something to keep an eye on. However, enough about me. In the other division, David Connors is still the leader in that division with a record of 6-4. Currently, the playoff picture looks like the season ended today. Austin would be the 1 seed. He would play the winner of the 4 versus 5 matchup, which is me and Chaz. And the 2 seed right now is David Connors, and he would play the winner of Ryan Lippert and Ashton Moore. So it's going to be an exciting rest of the way. Austin, what are your thoughts on your team and the overall outlook of this league?
I mean, it's been the same story for the past few weeks. My team has just been underperforming. Lockett's been disappointment. Amari Cooper's been a disappointment. I was really high on him after the bye week. He had his first game out of the bye week was against Minnesota, I believe. He had a big game. After that, he's just been silent. It's good to see Travis Kelce playing well again. The world seems to make sense again. Still, though, my team has not been playing as well as I'd like to. So this week, I'm going to be looking to make my first trade in this league. Fortunate to be 7-3. It really should be 8-2. But, of course, my one blunder, not benching Shepard when he got declared out. But it is what it is. It's very fortunate to come out with a win last week. I think I won by 0.5. It came down to Monday Night Football. Garoppolo saved me. So I was very happy with that. I would like Kyler Murray to come back. I need him. Garoppolo's been a fine replacement, but healthy Kyler Murray can single-handedly carry me to a win. But listen, I'm 7-3. I'm in first place. I'm 2 games above Jett right now. I'm in first place in the division, so I really can't complain. But hoping to see some progress, hoping for my team to improve, and hoping to make a good trade this week. I need a running back. My running back 2 is between Boston Scott and Jamal Williams, and hopefully Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back.
Yeah, so speaking of trades, let's get right into our next segment. We're going to be talking about some trade strategies. Let's start off at the bottom of many leagues. Unfortunately, there are many teams out there that this just was not their year. You might be 0-10, 1-9, 2-8, or even 3-7, whatever the case may be. If you're in a regular redraft league, unfortunately, the best case is to try and rack up as many wins, but in the process, don't really spoil anyone else's chances in your league. You don't want to start trading your team to one of the other teams in the league to make them a super team. You want to, for the most part, stay pat. You could still look at some potential moves to try and for the possibility of winning out and earning that final playoff spot. But my advice to be was just, chalk this up as a down year and just ride the wave the rest of the way. What do you think, Austin?
Well, I have a couple viewpoints with this. One, if you're in last place, if you're at the bottom of the league, like Jett said, chalk it up. It was a bad year. We all have them. I've had my fair share of down years. It happens to the best of us. But if you are a team on the cusp of making the playoffs, or you're literally a game back from the last playoff spot, don't be afraid to make a bold move. It's a time to be a little less conservative for sure. Don't just sell your team, but maybe make a move that may raise some eyebrows, but don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And if you are at the top of the league, at that point, your team is that good for a reason. Don't try to make some big change. Don't try to be the hero. Ride with your squad. Maybe make something small happen, but really don't. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, another thing, if you're like 1 or 2 games outside of the playoffs and you have a bunch of guys that are injured at the moment and won't be back for several more weeks, my advice would be to try and trade some of those guys and get someone that you can use now to increase your chances of winning not only this week, but the upcoming weeks leading into the playoffs. I think that would give yourself the best chance of earning that final playoff spot if you need to be. As for the people that are in like the middle of the pack, like 5-5, 4-6, 6-4 teams that are pretty much in a playoff spot right now, but 1 or 2 losses could get them out of a spot. 1 or 2 can firmly establish their position in spot trade in a playoff spot. I think the best thing to do is either trade for someone like a buy low candidate that's been injured. It's sort of vice versa as to those teams that are looking to trade those injured players away. Just look for guys that you can potentially use not only the last couple of weeks of the fantasy regular season, but guys that have nice fantasy schedules that can help you achieve a playoff run and shock the world come fantasy playoff time.
So, Jett, let me ask you this. Are there, and not just the Blitz League, are there any guys that you are targeting right now in any of your leagues?
Yeah, so one guy that I've been targeting in every one of my leagues, I actually just made a trade for him in another league, is David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears. He's someone that has a fantastic playoff schedule. He is someone that a lot of people haven't really thought about as much because he missed 4 games due to injury. He returned the week before the bye and he had 13 carries, 10 fantasy points, but the remaining games that he has, he faces the Giants, he faces the Seahawks, he faces the Vikings, he faces the Lions, he faces the Ravens. A lot of those teams have not been great against run defenses this year. So my feeling towards this is if you're someone that is already firmly locked into a playoff spot, why not buy low on someone like David Montgomery? We've seen where he's had these fantastic stretches, including last year. So this is someone that I think is going to win people leagues when all is said and done. Do you have someone in mind that you like the rest of the way?
Honestly, this week I've only made one trade. Yesterday in our home league, actually, I traded for Stephon Diggs. I got Antonio Brown. I got James Robinson, and I will be getting Travis Kelce in the second part of the deal. But if there's one guy I actually want down the stretch, I actually would agree with you on Montgomery. He was the one guy I was actually looking at this year. As you said, he's a very good playoff schedule. The Bears, they need him for their offense. They really need him. Their offense is just better with him. He's a hardcore runner. He hits that hole really hard. He's a bruiser, and that's what they need. So if you are on the cusp of the playoffs, you need a running back, I'll go after Montgomery. Buy low on him right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that have been injured these past several weeks that people maybe be forgetting about. So now would be the time. If you're locked into a playoff spot, you can afford to wait however long they're waiting to come back. I think another running back that could be returning this week could be someone like Saquon Barkley. While he
Yep.
is a very big risk, we know that the reward could definitely pay off if he stays healthy. He's one of the most productive players in not only fantasy but in the NFL. So just he's a number. There's a number of guys in his situation that could be worth trading for.
By the way, another guy that I think he's going to have a very big final stretch. Robbie Anderson.
Wow. Okay.
He disappeared for the first 10 weeks of the season, or not 9 weeks, I should say. Last week, the return of Cam Newton, those two seem to basically not have lost a connection at all. Newton found him for about, 4 catches, 37 yards and a touchdown, and Newton got limited playing time. I expect Robbie to have a very big final stretch. His schedule is very favorable. He plays Washington this week, Miami next week, and both those teams are second and third worst defenses against receivers, respectively. He plays Atlanta, who's the 8th worst. He plays Tampa, who's surprisingly the 10th worst, and then the Saints, who are the 4th worst. The only tough game he has in there is against Buffalo, who is the best defense against receivers. But other than that, his schedule is very favorable. And if Cam Newton really is back, Robbie Anderson could be the beneficiary of that. So try to buy low on him.
Yeah, going off of Cam Newton a little bit. Now that he is, back with the Panthers and back in the NFL playing, where would you rank him rest of the season? And is he worth, starting in your lineup as early as this week?
No. At the end of the day, it's still McCaffrey's team. I don't think Newton's going to be, it depends where you value him. You can't think he's going to be like his old self at all. That guy's gone. But if you want a guy who's going to give you 17 to 20 a week, all right, Newton's a guy. I don't think he'll have any weeks where he'll explode unless he finds the end zone on the ground 2 times. But either way, I think he's a guy who's going to be your above average quarterback. I don't think he'll be anything special. It's still McCaffrey's team. So don't expect anything big from Newton.
All right, and I'm just going to throw in a little bit. I know a lot of people out there are in leagues where you trade picks. I know Austin and I are in a league where that happens. I mean, I think my only piece of advice for leagues that involve trading picks, be careful about going all in. I know Austin and I can speak from experience. I mean, it's paid off for people like Austin, but more times than not, you may suffer the consequences in the long term. Yeah. So my advice is to be cautious. If you think there's a great opportunity to go all in and win your league on the basis of trading picks for players, by all means go for it. But if you're looking up to a team that you think even by trading for a few players, it still will make the difference, I would be very leery to make those kinds of moves, because in the end, you're going to start next year off on the wrong foot, and after losing this year, it's just going to be the worst possible case scenario. So that I just be cautious would be my advice.
Absolutely, I'm paying the price for that right now. Last year in our home league, I ended up going all in. I ended up winning the whole thing, but I'm now paying the price today. I don't have, this year's draft was very tough for me. I was fortunate to have landed Cooper Kupp. Without him, I definitely would not have had the success I've had so far. But as Jett said, be cautious. It's a high risk, high reward situation. But if you're feeling a little risky, go for it. But be careful.
Yeah, it's really a gut thing. If deep down you feel like that one move can take you to the promised land, by all means go for it. But some people, like I've done this before, you think about the now and how this is going to affect you like in the short term, but little do you know you were going to be suffering those consequences at a later point, and it is coming. The verdict is here for both Austin and I's team. It's catching up to us.
Yep.
Our moves last year, but let's keep moving on. Let's go to another segment. Austin and I will be talking about some of our successes and mistakes, but let's start on a positive note. Austin, what's one of those takes that you made early on in the season that has definitely paid off so far?
Let's see. It's a tough question, actually. I got to go back to it. Why don't you start us off? Give me a second to think,
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's obviously I have a few ones that I'm proud that I've gotten right because I was riding high on these players for pretty much all off season. Um, One guy is Joe Mixon, who we debated on this show and has returned RB1 value so far this season. With the bye week in play, he is currently the RB8 on the year and plenty of opportunity to still finish within the top five. All we needed Joe Mixon was to get that receiving volume, and he has got plenty of it. These last 2 games, he's had 5 targets. Week before that, he had 6 targets. While he has had some down weeks overall, he is one of the focal points of the Cincinnati Bengals offense and has been, if you drafted him in the second round, he has definitely paid off for sure. And he is definitely, he was one of my guys coming to the season. And I'm proud to say that I am fully aboard on the Joe Mixon train and I'm never hopping off.
Well, kudos to you for that take. I was worried about Joe Mixon heading into the season with his injury history and the fact that the Bengals came in with what we thought was a loaded receiving core. Boyd and Higgins have really done nothing this year. It's been basically Burrow, Chase, and Mixon. But a guy that I was high on to begin the year, he's in the top 11 at his position right now, and honestly, he's only 11 because of a down week last week against the most unlikely of teams, Carson Wentz. He has found his game again. He's not the same as he was on Philly. It's not the same Wentz, but he is right now QB 11, and thanks to his 7.1, effort last week. But he has found himself in that offense, and I figured with the reunion with Frank Reich, new situation, good O-line, great run game, new city, new place. I thought he'd be back to his old self, or at least a similar version. He has certainly done that. So I'm happy for Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I'm gonna transition over to probably one of my biggest misses this fantasy football season.
By the way, I think we can both attest to this. Austin Eckler.
Yes,
we were both high on him beginning of the year, and people, and I know Fantasy Pros had him going as a second round pick. We had him not only as a first rounder, but a top 5 first rounder, and he has certainly delivered this year. So,
he's currently the RB3 on the year, and going into the season, that's exactly where I had him. We both loved his outlook for this year, and it has definitely been paying off. So we are both excited about that, and excited for everyone that listened to us with, making sure you drafted Austin Eckler as early as possible. But unfortunately, with success comes some failure along the way, and a few of my takes just did not work out as how I wanted it to. I've doubted this guy several times year after year, and it continues. Terrific Tom continues to get me every time. I had him finishing outside of QB1 territory in my preseason rankings, and for a while he was the number 1 overall QB. He's now number 4, but Father Time just does not seem to catch up with him. He's still playing at an extremely high level. I know he's struggled. He's struggled these past 2 weeks, really. Well, more so last week against Washington, but he is going to be fine. And in many leagues, he may not have been drafted, and you probably may have scooped him off the waiver wire. Who knows? But if you have him in your starting lineup right now, I'm sure your team is doing just fine. I could say now going forward, even in next year when Tom Brady will be a year older, I will definitely not exclude him from my QB1 list, and he will definitely be a part of it for however many years he plays left in the NFL.
At this point, I would not shock me to play till he's 50. Really, it would not shock me. But listen, I don't blame you for writing him off. You know how hard it is to be that good at that age. And no one's ever done it. Like, no one. He's the first person to ever do this. So you tip your hat off to him. But the guy that I was so high on this year, he's been such a disappointment. You may know him. His name is Allen Robinson.
Yes.
I had him ranked as a top 10 receiver this year. I was so excited for Justin Fields to come in, take over. I thought those two would have such a big connection. And, what could go wrong has gone wrong. The Bears are a mess. Fields, frankly, likes throwing to Mooney. a lot more than Allen Robinson. Now, get it, A-Rob's been basically tripled every single play. But that whole offense is a mess, and I really did not see this one coming. So that was on me. That's probably my worst take of the year, being so high on Allen Robinson. But hopefully he goes to a new team next year, and hopefully they use him the way they should.
Yeah, I think I'll go with one more take that I just did not nail, even though I have him on one of my teams and he has definitely helped me a lot. Jalen Hurts, quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, not someone that I had faith in. I did not. He's currently the number 2 quarterback in fantasy right now, and I just he's not a great quarterback in reality, but he's been getting all those fourth quarter points, all those garbage time points. And in fantasy, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter when you're scoring or how you're scoring. If you're getting those points, you are definitely going to be productive for someone's team out there. And I mean, I'm fortunate enough that I put aside my initial Jalen Hurts takes and was able to scoop him up off the waiver wire early on in the season in one of my leagues. But I just did not. I had him, I believe, ranked as the quarterback 10 coming into the year. I did not see top 5 potential, either top 3 potential, but with his mixture of his rushing upside and his ability, like I said, to get those garbage time points, Jalen Hurts has saved a lot of teams this year, especially for ones that weren't sure how their quarterback position was going to unfold.
Absolutely. And another guy I want to talk about quickly. In my opinion, this guy's been a bust, even though he's 5 at his position. TJ Hawkinson. I feel like he has not been there this year at all. Like the first 2 weeks, he was incredible. He had 25.7 his first week, 20.6 the second week. But since then, his best game was a 15-point outing. He had 0 last week on 1 target. I get it. The lines are a mess. Jared Goff is struggling. Now, is it really on Goff? I don't think so. I think the Lions were just a bad team with no line and no other help. But he's been a bust this year, and I had him ranked in the top 5, but I didn't think he'd be only averaging 11 points a game. He is a 15-point per game talent, and he has certainly not lived up to that. So, that's been probably my other failure this year. I'm believing in TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, I mean, he started off the season on a great note with back-to-back 20-point games too.
Oh, and Myles Gaskin. He's the other guy.
Both of us.
The Dolphins, I don't know what your sorry Dolphins are doing. Not using him. He's still Waddle is their best weapon. Like you were absolutely right on that. I did not think he'd be this good. He is so fun to watch. He is explosive and electric. But I mean, they don't use Gaskin. I don't understand why. Like, I don't get it. It actually makes me mad.
And
like, I can't eat it during games. I can eat it.
Considering, I mean, Malcolm Brown has been inactive these past several weeks, and they're still not giving him the ball a lot. He's clearly the best running back on this team. I don't know what his future holds with the Dolphins. I feel like they're going to try and acquire some running back because obviously they don't have enough trust in him to use him in more of a bigger role. But yeah, I really had high hopes for guy. I mean, he's had some big games throughout the year. It just has not been as consistent. He's had some really bad weeks as well. So it's the type of thing where, like, a lot of people drafted Gaskin, including myself, pretty early on in drafts, and it has not paid off. But you live and you learn, and he will be on my do not draft list next year.
By the way, one more bust I want to say this year: Darren Waller.
Yes,
he has been so silent this season. He had his best game of the year came in week 1, same as Hawkinson, 26.5 points. Since then, his best game was I believe a 16.2 outing against, unfortunately, my Giants last 2 weeks ago. But he's right now tight end 7. I had him finishing as tight end 1. I thought this was that year where he would have the volume. It boggles my mind. It blows my mind. But I get losing Ruggs probably hurt him a little bit. Can teams now get the focus on him a little more? But he's been a disappointment this year.
That's the same thing with Hawkinson. Ever since those first couple of weeks, defenses just know exactly where the ball is going to be going more likely than not. So yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, the whole tight end position has really been a disaster once again. Besides Kelsey and now with Kittle back, that's how Pitts has looked has looked good in his rookie year
Better.
too.
Mark Andrews has looked better.
Mark Andrews, I mean, but other than that, like it's still the same.
Gronk for a while until he's got hurt.
Like 3 weeks, but
long those 2 weeks. What 3 weeks? But yeah, those have been a few of our disappointments this year.
Yeah,
but
we'll chalk those up. We'll learn from those as always, and we'll no fantasy analyst or commentator out there is perfect. Everyone gets stuff wrong. But it's important to highlight, have some accountability on what we get wrong. So we're not just, talking about all the good, because obviously there is a lot of bad that comes with it. But
absolutely.
Let's get to the final segment of our show. As everyone knows, Austin and I are in a heated battle of picking NFL games. We started this several weeks back, and it has been very fun. Currently, the standings are Austin has a record of 21-21. And I have a record of 27-15. So I have a 6-game lead over Austin this past week. Austin went 6-7 and I went 8-5. So Austin has a little bit of ground to make up, and we will make our picks when we get off the air, and we will, give out an update next week. But as always, we are going to make our upset of the week selections live on the show. So Austin, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. So last week, I had this team as my upset, and they failed me miserably. Now I'm gonna give credit to the Chiefs last week. Patrick Mahomes. The 1 week I bet against you, of course you play like an MVP. But I'm sticking with the same team this week. The Las Vegas Raiders this week play the Bengals at home. I believe they're going to beat after last week's debauchery. It was horrifying to watch the Raiders play, and I believe they're going to come back and beat Bengals, who really are not looking fantastic right now.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. The Bengals are coming off before their bye, they were coming off a 2-game losing streak where they lost to the Jets and they lost to the Browns. Badly. And maybe the bye week will change some things around. This game, like Austin said, is in Las Vegas. Cincinnati is favored by a point. I like the Bengals to win that game. I mean, the Raiders absolutely got destroyed by the Chiefs this past week. Maybe it's the type of thing where the Raiders come back hungrier, but there's a lot of drama going on over there. So I like the direction you're going. Maybe this is the week the Raiders finally pay off for you as an upset of the week. But I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to take the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the San Francisco 49ers. This game is in Jacksonville. San Francisco has to travel all across the country. They are favored by 6 points, and they are coming off the highest of highs after beating the Rams on Monday Night Football. This is going to be their highest point of the season. They're 4-5 right now. They're most likely not going to be in the playoffs with how competitive the NFC is. And with them riding high, I think they may run into trouble. Again, I know the Jaguars are not a great team, but Trevor Lawrence has looked better as of late. He has a few new weapons that he's relying on in Darren Arnold, who I'm starting in one of my leagues, hoping for the best. He's been pretty volume driven these past couple of weeks. But other than that, I just think that this is the sort of thing where people call it a trap game. I just think the West Coast to East Coast plays a major factor in this. And give me Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars to upset the 49ers this week.
Normally I would love to roast your picks, but the fact is, with the Jaguars having beaten Buffalo recently, nothing's out of the question anymore. So I can't even say anything.
Yeah, so it should be an exciting week ahead. There's going to be a lot of good games. We got the Cowboys and Chiefs playing, the Steelers and Chargers on Sunday Night Football.
That should be a shootout. That yes. Cowboys game should be a shootout. I'm so excited to watch that. Even the Sunday night game, I'm actually kind of excited to watch.
Yeah, I think we can both agree that the pure game of the week is probably going to be Cowboys Chiefs. But honestly, I know the Chiefs haven't been as great, but could this be a potential Super Bowl matchup? Maybe.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
100%. Another game I'm actually looking forward to this week, Packers Vikings.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a game that's typically very close. Typically not a shootout. I feel like with those teams, I feel like they play very tight with each other for some reason. But I always love watching Rodgers, work against Minnesota. Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, get Devontae Adams. I know Aaron Jones is out this week, but AJ Dillon's probably he's going to be fun to watch. He looked good last week.
Yes.
So that's another game I'm excited to watch. And I think this is also the week that Russell Wilson returns and really plays well. Last week was very hard for him. Again, a first week back, wasn't the best weather conditions. Haven't played in a while. I think this is the week where he gets it done against Arizona, but me and you will discuss that after the show.
Yeah, there's a lot of good divisional matchups this week. You got Dolphins, Jets, Texans, Titans, Packers, Vikings, as Austin was talking about. Cardinals, Seahawks. So it should be a fun week of football. But before we get out of here, Austin, do you think the Lions pick up a win this week? Their first win.
They play
the Browns. They play the Browns.
I do not think so.
All right.
I think the Browns are going to cook them this week.
All right.
Especially after last week, I would think the Browns are going to come out with a little bit of more fire today. On Sunday.
Do you think the Lions go winless the rest of the way?
Well, let me pull up their schedule and let me look. No. They're one win of the year. It's going to be against Atlanta.
All right.
Or Denver.
Okay. Yeah, I don't believe they're going to finish winless. It's just a matter. Yeah, the Falcons or Broncos probably the two most likely opportunities for them to pick up a win. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this unfolds and if they wrap up that number one pick, which they are on the way to doing. So we will have to keep in touch with all this. But yeah, that was episode number 15 is officially in the books. A great one. We highlighted a bunch of things to get you ready for your fantasy football trade deadlines, along with some of our successes and failures up to this point in this season. Austin, anything before we get out of here?
Just same thing every week. Check out the website, blitzanalytics.com. We're all posting articles, me, Jett, and the rest of the team to help you win your fantasy league and get you ready for your final playoff push. And Jett, send it off.
Yeah, and always, if you don't forget, if you cannot handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. I butchered that, but you guys get the point.
I mean, you should get out of the kitchen after botching that. Jesus.
All right, thank you, everybody.
See you guys.